Today we are going to continue our challenge of learning some of the most famous military stratagems in Chinese history, the 36 stratagems, 36计. Go check out chapters 1, 2, and 3 if you haven't already. Now we are past halfway and we're going to combine chapters 4 and 5 for some of the best, most common expressions from these chapters. This video is brought to you by Skritter, the app to get you to Chinese and Japanese mastery. Create your own decks or learn from Skritter's curated decks just like this one, or dive right into some of the most popular textbooks. So you might have noticed that we are combining chapter 4, 混战计, chaos in combat, with 并战计 in chapter 5, combined combat for this episode. Now, there are some real linguistic gems in chapter 4 and 5, but these two chapters also contain some of the least common expressions in the whole of the 36 stratagems. Now, you might also be wondering, is this also going to be the case for the last chapter, chapter 6? Don't worry, the last chapter is the pièce de résistance of the 36 stratagems. It's really the cherry on top of the 36 stratagem cake. But before we get to that tasty linguistic cake, let's learn two of the most common expressions from each of these chapters 4 and 5. Skritter users will get the more comprehensive walkthrough, so do go check that out in app. 釜底抽薪 means to address the root cause of a problem. In a strategic sense, it means that you should probably attack, say, the source or the supply of the enemy, therefore neutralizing your opponent and winning this attack. In an everyday sense, it really goes back to that phrase, addressing the root cause. So let's look at an example sentence. 这件事情你这样处理没有用，要釜底抽薪，从根源解决问题才可以. So you really have to solve a problem by eliminating its underlying cause. I love this next expression, 浑水摸鱼, or sometimes you'll also hear 浑水摸鱼, because literally it means fishing in muddy waters. In a strategic context, it means to take advantage of a chaotic or confused situation, so the muddy waters, to achieve your own goal, so to get that fish. Sometimes it can, in a confrontational or a warfare situation, can imply a little bit of unethical or opportunistic behavior. But in modern usage, it actually means to skive off work.
Bueller.
So I'm not sure if this is just a British expression, but if you're trying to not work at work and you're skiving, you can say you are 浑水摸鱼. 你上班要是浑水摸鱼，是会被发现的. Sometimes this 36 stratagem is actually broken down into kind of two components, and you might hear someone say, 你别再打混了, don't muck about.
You put my stuff in Jell-O again. How do you know it was me?
Or 你别再摸鱼了, don't be there fishing for fish. So both mean to be kind of lazy at work or to be skiving off work. 指桑骂槐 literally means you're pointing at the sang tree, but you're actually complaining about the 槐 tree. So when you're scolding someone, but actually what you want to do is scold, well, you're scolding at A, but what you actually want to do is address the behavior of B. So you can imagine this behavior being a little bit annoying because you are criticizing someone indirectly. Now, this tactic, right, is often used to avoid direct confrontation whilst trying to critique someone else. So maybe in a warfare context, this is somewhat more justified, but you can imagine in modern day usage, this expression is generally always used to describe annoying behavior such as 他很讨厌那个同事，讲话常常指桑骂槐，搞得大家很尴尬. I used to have a boss that would do exactly this. He would scold, for example, me for hours on end when actually what he was trying to do was embarrass my superior. So this is the exact situation for 指桑骂槐. Now moving on to 反客为主 is an idiom that describes a situation, okay, wherein someone takes control or dominates a situation. So let's say originally they were more in the guest position, 客. Generally, in an ancient Chinese context, one would be seen as somewhat more submissive, or you always give face to your host, right? So the host being the person with power or control. So here you're reversing those roles. So someone's really taking control and dominating a situation. Now, in a 36 stratagem context, this strategy could be used, so for example, maybe a subordinate's finally kind of gaining momentum and really taking control. Generally more positive, but again, in a modern day context, is somewhat used to describe annoying behavior, right? So you imagine if someone was really supposed to be the guest and now they're acting in a host role, that might annoy quite a few people. 这个人倒是很自以为是，明明跟他无关，还要管东管西，真的是反客为主了。Now, when we're describing someone else, like I said, generally this is considered more of a negative expression, right? Because you're describing someone kind of doing a switcheroo on their supposed roles. But sometimes when you hear someone use this expression to describe yourself, then it aligns closer to its original meaning of being assertive. All right, I hope you enjoyed today's video where we talked about 釜底抽薪、浑水摸鱼、指桑骂槐、反客为主. Don't forget to check out the Skritter app for the extended video where we cover 3 more expressions. I'll see you next time for the grand finale of the series. 关门捉贼，好难念。关门捉贼的招。